Have you ever wondered what evil truly looks like? Picture a man, seemingly ordinary, but harboring a darkness that would send chills down your spine. His name was Albert Fish, a figure that would come to be known in hushed whispers as the Brooklyn Vampire. His deeds, cloaked in the shadows of heinous crimes, are as unsettling as they are horrifying. So brace yourself, for we're about to delve into the abyss of human depravity. Welcome to the chilling tale of Albert Fish, the Brooklyn Vampire. Let's turn back the hands of time and explore the early life of Albert Fish. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1870, Fish was the youngest of 4 children. His family had a history of mental illness, with several relatives diagnosed with mania. His father, a riverboat captain, passed away when Fish was just 5 years old, leading to his placement in an orphanage. It was in this harsh environment that Fish first encountered and became intrigued by pain, a seed that would grow into a monstrous obsession. As a teenager, Fish began to explore his burgeoning interest in sadomasochistic practices. He moved to New York City in his early 20s, where he started working as a house painter, a job that allowed him to be close to children, his eventual victims. These early experiences, filled with hardship, neglect, and a perverse introduction to pain, set the stage for the horrifying acts that would follow. And so, a monster was born. As Fish grew older, so too did his dark desires. The man who would become known as the Brooklyn Vampire found himself tumbling down a slippery slope into the abyss of criminal behavior. His first known crimes, as chilling as they were merely the tip of the iceberg. Albert Fish was not your run-of-the-mill criminal. His crimes were the stuff of nightmares, monstrous acts that left deep scars on society. His first known transgressions were petty thefts and minor assaults, but they quickly escalated into darker, more violent acts. The nature of these crimes was shockingly brutal, a stark contrast to the frail, unassuming man that Fish appeared to be. He would lure his victims, often young children, with sweet words and promises, only to lead them to their doom. But how did this man, this monster, manage to evade capture for so long? The answer lies in his cunning, his skill at deception, and his ability to blend into society. Fish was a chameleon, a wolf in sheep's clothing. He possessed an uncanny ability to appear harmless, to blend into the background, to be just another face in the crowd. This, combined with his careful selection of victims, often those on the fringes of society, the overlooked, the forgotten, allowed him to carry out his heinous acts undetected for years. His crimes were not acts of impulse, but carefully planned and executed. He was methodical, calculating, leaving no trace of his atrocities. He was a master manipulator, using his apparent frailty and harmless demeanor to gain the trust of his victims and their families. But even the most careful criminals slip up, and Fish was no exception. His reign of terror lasted for decades, but every reign, no matter how long, has an expiration date. He continued his malevolent spree, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake, unaware that his time was running out. But as we know, every reign of terror must eventually come to an end. The clock was ticking for Albert Fish, and his dark descent was about to take a drastic turn. The Brooklyn Vampire's reign was nearing its twilight, and justice was about to be served. Opening, the law finally caught up with Fish in 1934. The wheels of justice, although slow, were steadily grinding away. The long shadow cast by Albert Fish, the called Brooklyn Vampire, was finally shrinking. His reign of horror, which had sent chills down the spine of New York, was coming to an end. The capture of Fish was no less than a nail-biting thriller. The manhunt was intense, authorities leaving no stone unturned. The police force was under tremendous pressure, the public demanding justice for the innocent lives lost. The investigation was a complex web of clues and leads, each thread painstakingly untangled by the dedicated detectives. The breakthrough came when a piece of stationery left behind by Fish was traced back to him. The stationery belonged to the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. This seemingly insignificant clue was the missing puzzle piece that led the law enforcement straight to the doorstep of the monster. Once apprehended, Fish's chilling confessions and the mounting evidence against him painted a horrifying picture. The depth of his depravity was truly shocking. His capture not only brought relief to a terrified city, but also a sense of closure for the families of his victims. The trial that followed was one of the most sensational of the era, the nation riveted by the gruesome details of his crimes. But that's a story for another time. Closing. And so, the Brooklyn vampire was finally brought to justice. Albert Fish's crimes left a lasting mark on society. This infamous figure, known as the Brooklyn Vampire, didn't just instill fear in the hearts of New Yorkers during the early 20th century, but his heinous actions sent shockwaves through the entire nation. His victims, innocent children, were not only robbed of their lives, but their families were left with an indelible wound, a void that could never be filled. In the wake of his crimes, communities were gripped by a palpable sense of dread, a fear that lingered long after Fish was apprehended. Parents held their children a little closer. Streets once filled with the laughter of playing kids fell eerily silent. The Brooklyn vampire's monstrous deeds had shattered the illusion of safety in their own neighborhoods. Beyond the immediate horror, Fish's case had far-reaching implications in the fields of psychology and criminology. His trial brought forth discussions about criminal insanity that challenged the conventional wisdom of the time. Fish's own claims of hearing voices and his apparent pleasure in committing violent acts led to a deeper exploration of the link between mental illness and criminal behavior. His case became a landmark study, a grim but significant step towards understanding the dark corners of the human mind. In criminology, the meticulous approach of investigators in Fish's case set a precedent for future investigations. The use of forensic evidence, psychological profiling, and cross-state collaboration were all crucial in his capture. These techniques have since become fundamental in solving complex criminal cases. However, perhaps the most enduring legacy of Albert Fish is the chilling reminder of the existence of pure evil. His story is a testament to the darkest depths humanity can sink to, an unnerving narrative that continues to haunt the annals of American crime history. Albert Fish, the Brooklyn Vampire, will forever be remembered as a symbol of true evil.